There's an alien spacecraft orbiting Earth right now, watching us, studying us, maybe even waiting for the right moment to make a move. I'm talking about the Black Knight satellite, one of the wildest and most mind-blowing mysteries out there. This isn't your run-of-the-mill UFO sighting. This thing has been lurking up there for thousands of years, way before humans even dreamed of satellites. So, what the hell is it? Where did it come from? Is it some ancient alien tech spying on us? Or is there a completely different, crazier explanation? And have we actually tried reaching out to this spooky-ass piece of space junk? Glove up, shit's about to get twisted. So, let's talk about the Black Knight satellite. If you've never heard of this sneaky bastard before, it's basically a weird-ass object that's been orbiting Earth for 13,000 years. Yeah, you heard that right. This thing predates human-made satellites by, like, several millennia. It's mysterious as fuck, and nobody's been able to figure out what the hell it actually is. UFO enthusiasts and conspiracy theorists love this thing. To them, it's solid proof that aliens are out there, keeping tabs on us like we're some kind of intergalactic ant farm. And if it's not aliens, well, that's even scarier. But here's the problem. Governments and space agencies, including our good old friends at NASA, won't say jack shit about it. They'll brush it off as debris or a misidentified satellite. But come on, do they really think we're that fucking stupid? They've been dodging questions about it for decades, and that only makes it more sus. In this video, we're gonna dig deep into the mystery of this weirdness. What is it? Why is it here? And most importantly, why is everyone in charge pretending it's no big fucking deal? Let's find out, shall we? Let's roll back the clock and start this wild ride at the very beginning. Because the Black Knight satellite's history reads like the greatest fucking sci-fi novel that never got written. In 1899, Nikola Tesla, the genius inventor who basically shaped modern electricity, built a tower at his Colorado Springs lab to see if he could detect any weird shit from the atmosphere. Well, he did. He started receiving transmissions composed of numbers at regular intervals. At first, he thought they were coming from the atmosphere. Later, he was convinced these signals came from space, describing them as repetitive and intelligent. He was later quoted as saying, "I believe the numbers are being used for communication because numbers are universal." Now, skeptics have been quick to dismiss this as interference or Tesla just losing his shit. But many professionals concur that this was our first interaction with the Black Knight satellite. Tesla, ahead of his time, as usual, accidentally picked up a message from an alien probe. And honestly, if anyone was going to be the first to get a call from ET, it makes sense that it was Tesla. A few years later, Guglielmo Marconi, the inventor of the first wireless radio, also picked up the signals. In 1927, Horgan Hals, a Norwegian radio engineer, noticed transmissions on a certain wavelength were being sent back. Now, don't get me wrong, radio echoes are normal, especially shortwave signals. They can bounce between the ground and stratosphere several times. This is called propagation. Normal radio echoes usually occur 1/7 of a second after the original transmission. These echoes were happening at many different intervals, some up to 15 seconds after the transmission. They weren't consistent with signals that bounce around the Earth. For years after their discovery, shortwave and ham radio operators have observed them at different intervals. These signals are now known as long-delayed echoes. How and why they occur still remains a mystery. Fast forward to May 14, 1954. Donald Keyhoe, a Marine Corps naval aviator turned UFO researcher and author, dropped a bombshell. He claimed the U.S. Air Force had detected not one, but 2 satellites orbiting Earth, 3 years before Sputnik 1, the first human-made satellite, even got off the ground. Let me repeat that. 2 satellites were detected orbiting Earth before we had the technology to put them there. Keyhoe was no fringe freak. He was well respected in his field, which makes his claims even harder to ignore. He founded the National Investigations Committee on Aerial Phenomena, or NICAP. He said that U.S. government scientists working out of White Sands, New Mexico, had found 1 or 2 artificial satellites and were trying to track them. A few weeks later, he got some more info. It was reported that the 2 satellites had been found at 400 miles and 600 miles above the Earth. These satellites were emitting a strange radio signal at periodic intervals, just like Tesla discovered years earlier. It was later leaked that a team of scientists at the University of New Mexico was trying to locate and ID the objects. The Pentagon got pissed off that it got leaked, but shit, when you receive a broadcast from a satellite before satellites are invented, that's pretty fucking hard to keep that shit on the DL. After that, NASA detected signals from what it called an unknown orbiting object, and those signals were confirmed by astronomers in France and elsewhere. In 1957, a researcher for the Venezuelan government was observing Sputnik 2. As it passed over Caracas, he noticed a mysterious object. At first, he thought it was Sputnik, but it couldn't be. Sputnik moves in prograde orbit, meaning from west to east along the rotation of the Earth. The object he saw was moving in retrograde orbit, moving east to west, opposite the rotation of the Earth, which was totally fucked up because that technological ability didn't exist at the time. The Defense Department finally acknowledged the Black Knight satellite on February 11, 1960. The New York Times ran an article which said an unidentified silent dark satellite has been detected tumbling over the Earth in a polar orbit by several United States tracking stations. The Defense Department said the identity and origin of the mystery satellite are still not known, despite nearly 2 weeks of tracking it. The following month, in March 1960, Time magazine published an article about an unidentified satellite discovered in a polar orbit around Earth. Now, here's the thing. All known satellites at the time, whether American or Soviet, were in equatorial orbits. Polar orbits were unheard of. The DoD chimed in, claiming it was just a piece of the Discoverer satellite that had broken off. However, they provided no proof and no detailed explanation. Just a "trust us" from the same folks who brought us Project Blue Book. Yeah, sure, we totally believe you fuckers. Grumman Aircraft, a military contractor, was tasked with tracking and photographing the satellite, which they did in August 1960. But that report and those photographs have never been released to the public. In May 1961, the Smithsonian Observatory at Harvard spotted the object. They even reported this in a press statement. The satellite was first spotted over Florida, an unsuspecting, unpredicted bright satellite. Stations around the world were asked to help track it. They did, and it was like they kicked a hornet's nest. Jacques Vallée, a respected astronomer, investigated the Black Knight satellite in the 1960s. What he witnessed was also in polar orbit. There were no Earth-based satellites at that time in polar orbit. The tech just wasn't there. What's interesting about this is satellites in polar orbit are very well positioned to observe all points of the Earth's surface. When a country wants to see it all, they go with polar orbit. Another tidbit about the object that stood out was its size. It was massive, about the size of a semi-truck, and weighed about 15 tons. At that point in time, no country had a rocket powerful enough to lift something that fucknormous into orbit. Vallée and his team were psyched at the discovery. They observed it, tracked it, and even filmed it. Stoked, he eagerly put all the research, photos, and film in a file and handed over his findings to his supervisor, only to have the evidence confiscated faster than you can say cover-up. The official reason? The observatory was embarrassed because they couldn't identify the object. Oh, fuck off. Really? Since when does scientific embarrassment warrant destroying actual evidence? That smells like top-grade bullshit to me. Vallée is still alive, and this still bothers him, even today. He said before he spotted the Black Knight satellite, he wasn't a UFO guy. But now, he abso-fucking-lutely is. He's since written 15 books and tons of papers challenging mainstream science and supporting the existence of UFOs. Up until this point, the Black Knight satellite has only been seen by astronomers and observers on the ground. We need someone to go into orbit and witness it with their own eyes. 18 months later, that's exactly what fucking happened. Jump to 1963. Gordon Cooper was your typical cocky, good-looking, short hair, fast car driving 1960s astronaut. He was taught how to fly a plane by his dad when he was 7 years old. He became a very successful fighter pilot during the Korean War and a test pilot immediately after. This later paved his way to become one of the original Mercury 7 astronauts in 1963. He piloted Mercury 9, the longest American space mission at the time. This dude was a total badass. When his landing module experienced a total systems failure during his return home, he said, "Fuck it," shut everything down, and brought the landing module in manually. He splashed down only 4 miles off target. Needless to say, he's the focused kind of dude when it comes to dealing with pressure. This near disaster didn't scare him at all. He continued going into space and shattering endurance records. He's so hard, he's the only astronaut to fall asleep during liftoff. I bet he loved action movies. During the Mercury Atlas 9 mission, Gordon Cooper reported seeing a green glowing object in front of his module while orbiting Earth. And it wasn't a fleeting glimpse. He watched it for several minutes. His ground crew also confirmed this, and a NASA Australian tracking team with around 100 witnesses also saw the UFO. NBC News quickly picked up the story, but when Cooper got back from the mission, the press wasn't permitted to question Cooper about his sighting. And get this, the official explanation from NASA was there was an electronic malfunction on Cooper's craft. This caused high levels of carbon dioxide to build up in the cabin, which induced hallucinations. Can you believe that stupid shit? The real-life version of Captain America was seeing shit. Unbelievable. That's NASA for you. Never admit seeing anything. Like the good soldier Gordon Cooper was, while he was at NASA and active military, he felt duty-bound to follow orders about what he saw and completely denied the sighting. But after he retired, he said, "Fuck that shit, all bets are off." Cooper recounted that while he was a test pilot at Edwards Air Force Base, he saw strange saucer-shaped craft, and the saucers made no sound as they landed on retractable gear. Cooper said that even the most fearless test pilots were scared shitless by the things they saw at Edwards. Even right up until his death, Cooper claimed that the U.S. government was definitely covering up information about UFOs. Scottish astronomy buff and sci-fi author Duncan Lunnon dropped a bombshell. In a 1973 article in Spaceflight magazine, he went back and analyzed all the long-delayed echo data compiled from the Norwegian scientists. When he did, he found a pattern. And in that pattern, he found a message. And the message had a map. He had identified a radio message that came from the Black Knight satellite. Lunnon had gone back to the long-delayed echo data and noticed variations that might indicate a code. So he put the data on a graph. On one axis was the time delay between echoes. On the other axis, the position of each echo in the sequence. Plotting these points didn't create any recognizable pattern. So Lunnon reversed the axes. The result was a collection of dots that appeared to be a sky map. Specifically, the constellation Baltes. The only star in the constellation that was out of place was Epsilon Baltes. Lunnon felt this could indicate the Black Knight satellite's origin. Now, he admitted this evidence was shaky, so he found more radio echoes reported by French astronomers in 1929. Those graphs confirmed it was the same constellation. There was one big problem, though. Arcturus, the brightest star in the constellation, was slightly off-center. Lunnon couldn't explain this, so he changed his thinking. Maybe the satellite didn't arrive here recently. Maybe it was showing a star map from a time in the past. So the Earth rotates on its axis. Gravity causes the axis to wobble like a top, but it's consistent and predictable. The orientation of the Earth's axis makes a full cycle every 26,000 years. So over long time spans, the stars in the sky look slightly different. Well, Arcturus was slightly out of place for 1973. But when Lunnon adjusted the map further back in time, accounting for the wobble, the stars lined up. The Black Knight satellite wasn't a new arrival. According to the map, it's been here for 13,000 years. According to Lunnon, the message he deciphered said, "Start here. Our home is Epsilon Baltes, which is a double star. We live on the sixth planet of 7 coming from the Sun, which is the larger of the two. Our sixth planet has 1 moon. Our fourth planet has 3. Our first and third planets each have 1. Our probe is in the position of Arcturus, known in our maps. Epsilon Baltes is a real star in the Baltes constellation." Lunnon stated that the message came from a planet orbiting Epsilon Baltes. A fucking alien postcard from across the galaxy? You can't make this shit up. Except Lunnon allegedly did. He later retracted his claims, likely under duress. No officials really ever took the Black Knight seriously. That is, not until 1998. That's when all hell broke loose. And finally, we've got the Space Shuttle mission STS-88. This is where the Black Knight officially enters internet lore. On December 4th, 1998, the Space Shuttle Endeavour was on the first shuttle mission to the under-construction International Space Station. The primary objective of this mission was to deliver and install a piece of equipment called the Unity node. The node connects the Russian and American segments together, where the crew can share meals, hang out, and at least try to shoot the shit. But that wasn't the main event of the mission. On December 11th, astronauts snapped photos of a mysterious angular object they noticed floating in space. They show what appears to be some type of black craft in orbit around the Earth. The images quickly sparked a frenzy. NASA claimed it was just a thermal blanket that had gotten away and for everyone to settle the fuck down. Well, they didn't say fuck. But let's be real. This thing doesn't look at all like this thing. You're telling me a thermal blanket that somehow escaped its tether, folded itself into a complex shape, and stayed in orbit? Bullshit! When you line all this up, from Tesla's signals to the STS-88 photos, it's clear there's a pattern of mystery and evasion surrounding the Black Knight satellite. Every piece of evidence, each story adds another layer to the question. What the hell is this thing? Is it an alien probe? An ancient artifact? Or just some cosmic prank? I say we fuck around and find out. Alright folks, now we're diving into that nice sweet shit in the middle. What the hell is the Black Knight satellite? Let's look at this from two angles. The skeptics and the believers. Spoiler alert, one of these groups is way more fun to hang out with. Let's start with the doubters, the buzzkills, the actually crowd. They've got their explanations for the Black Knight satellite, and honestly, some of them are about as satisfying as a wet fart with no underwear on. First up, the most basic, lame-ass explanation. It's just a piece of space debris. Some skeptics point to the 1998 STS-88 mission and say, duh, it's a thermal blanket that came loose. NASA even released photos and claimed, nothing to see here, folks, move along. Besides, NASA wouldn't lie, would it? However, this theory doesn't account for reports of the satellite dating back to the 1950s. Space debris didn't exist when Nikola Tesla was picking up mysterious signals. This just doesn't cut the peanut butter. Others argue it could be a natural object, like an asteroid or chunk of rock that got caught in Earth's orbit. Okay, sure, maybe. But let me ask you this. When was the last time an asteroid was observed giving off radio signals? This explanation feels like throwing shit up against the wall and seeing what sticks. Alright, now that we've got that snooze fest out of the way, let's get to the good stuff. The theories that'll make you say, oh shit. The leading theory among believers is that the Black Knight satellite is an alien probe. Think about it. If you were an advanced extraterrestrial civilization and wanted to study Earth, wouldn't you park a solid black satellite in orbit where you could watch us without being noticed? This theory explains Tesla's signals, the 1950s sightings, and those creepy-ass photos from the STS-88 mission. It's been up there quietly monitoring our progress, or lack thereof. Honestly, this makes a lot of sense. If there was an advanced civilization somewhere in the galaxy, they would send probes to every star that could possibly support life. And when we reach this level of technology, I have no doubt that we'll do the same thing. Shit, we already do with Mars. If the Black Knight satellite is an alien probe, could the radio signals be reporting back to its home planet? Or could the signals be for us? Could they be sending us a map saying, here's how to get to my house? Kind of like we did when we sent those golden records on Voyager 1 and Voyager 2 in 1977 out into deep space with all our deets on it. I'm still a little worried that wasn't such a good idea. What if the Black Knight isn't alien at all, but something even weirder? Some say it's an ancient spacecraft left by a long-lost civilization. Maybe our ancestors from thousands or even millions of years ago were more advanced than we give them credit for, and the Black Knight is their gift or warning to the future. There are several ancient texts that describe a dark arc orbiting the Earth that was put there thousands of years ago. The ark contains DNA information of a human-like species from long ago. Aware that some catastrophe was going to doom the civilization, they put their DNA somewhere safe. A place that doesn't care about ice ages, sea levels, or even nuclear war. What safer place than in orbit around the Earth? And by placing the Ark in orbit, you not only ensure the safety of its contents, you ensure that the only way to become aware of it is by reaching a certain level of technology. Now, we have the ability to visit the Black Knight satellite. We could send a craft into its orbit right now and try to discover its secrets. Or we could bring it back to Earth and share its secrets with the rest of the world. Why the hell haven't we done this? Who knows? Maybe the reason the Black Knight satellite is kept secret from the world is because someone has already visited it and maybe even opened it. And maybe they didn't like what they found. And, of course, no good conspiracy theory is complete without a cover-up. NASA, the US government, and maybe even other global powers know exactly what the Black Knight is, but have decided to keep their damn mouths shut. Why? Maybe they're afraid of chaos in the streets. Or maybe they've been told to keep their mouths shut by men wearing black suits, or the aliens themselves. Either way, the silence is deafening. The confiscation of Jacques Vallée's data and the erasure of his footage only adds fuel to this fire. Here's a mind-blowing twist. What if the Black Knight satellite isn't from the past or another planet, but from our own future? Some theorists suggest it's an unmanned time capsule sent back to monitor us or to stop us from doing something incredibly stupid, like nuking ourselves into piles of ash. If that's true, then the Black Knight satellite isn't just watching us, it's guiding us, subtly altering our course to avoid catastrophe. It's like Interstellar meets 2001: A Space Odyssey, only way creepier. Theories abound, but they all come back to the same questions. Why is the Black Knight satellite there? Who put it there? And what the hell is it waiting for? The skeptics blow off these questions, but for believers, they're the whole point. Whether it's aliens, ancient humans, or time travelers, one thing's clear. This mystery isn't going away anytime soon. All right, let's be real. If the Black Knight satellite is up there, lurking like some cosmic creeper, the big question is, has anyone tried to communicate with it? Our story starts with Nikola Tesla, who's basically the OG alien whisperer. Back in 1899, while he was working on his experiments with radio waves, Tesla picked up strange repeating signals. He believed they were extraterrestrial in origin, though nobody took him seriously. Was it the Black Knight satellite trying to make first contact? Many think so. If Tesla was right, it means the Black Knight satellite's been sending out signals for over a century, just waiting for someone smart enough, or crazy enough, to answer. Fast forward to now. You'd think with all our high-tech gadgets and government-funded space nerds, someone would have tried to reach out. But nope, it's like the Black Knight satellite has been put on the cosmic do not call list. Officially, there's no record of NASA, SETI, or any major space agency attempting to communicate with it. Unofficially? Who the hell knows? If the government is hiding UFOs in hangars, and it looks like they are, they sure as shit could be chatting with the Black Knight satellite behind closed doors. But here's the titty twister. What if the Black Knight satellite doesn't want to be found? Think about it. If it's alien, I'm sure it's way ahead of us technologically. It could have cloaking systems, stealth tech, or whatever other sci-fi shit we can't even imagine. Or maybe it's sitting up there, listening and thinking, these assholes aren't worth my time. For all the money, here's the questions. If it's alien, what the fuck does it want? Is it watching us like a lab experiment, waiting for us to grow up? Or is it biding its time until we do something stupid, like launch nukes, so we can swoop in and save or destroy our sorry asses? Whatever the case, one thing's clear. If the Black Knight satellite is out there, it's playing the long game. And that's both fascinating and absolutely terrifying. Here's the thing about the Black Knight satellite. It's not just some piece of tinfoil floating around out there. It's a fucking enigma that's latched onto the imaginations of believers, skeptics, and conspiracy theorists alike. Why? Because it represents something much bigger, the unknown. And let's face it, humans are obsessed with shit we can't explain. This mystery, whether it's an alien probe, ancient tech, or just some space junk with one hell of a PR team, reminds us of how little we actually know about the universe. We like to think we got our shit together as a species, but the Black Knight satellite is a big giant middle finger to our arrogance. It whispers, "Hey, maybe you're not as smart as you think, dickhead." And maybe that's the point. Whether you're a skeptic rolling your eyes all the way to the back of your head, or a full-blown tinfoil hatter building a signal receiver in your basement, the Black Knight satellite makes us curious. It keeps us questioning the so-called official narrative. Because if we stop asking questions, we stop uncovering truths. So here's a thought to leave you with. If it's up there, silently watching us, what the hell is it waiting for? And do we really want to find out? Stay curious and don't stop looking up, because the truth is out there. Or maybe it's right above us, laughing its alien ass off. If you vibed with this video, tap that like button and subscribe. That way you won't miss out on more of my fucked up commentary. And besides, I really do appreciate it. So the Black Knight satellite, what do y'all think? Let me know in the comments. And last, but definitely not least, click on that join button just below the title and become part of my YouTube membership. For as little as $2.99, you can help a poor starving artist. I'm just joshing you, but it does help me more than you know. Until next time, y'all keep it real, keep it chill, and stay creepy! Catch you on the flip. Thank you so much for watching all the way to the end. You are the real beast.